listen, congratulations to India. Huge, huge, huge day for India. Like, listen, this is definitely something to celebrate because this isn't easy. This isn't easy at all. So congratulations again. Let's check this video out.
India has done it. It has become now the 4th country to land a spacecraft on the moon after the US and China and the former Soviet Union. Just moments ago, we're talking just a couple of minutes, the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft landed on the lunar South Pole. Look at the celebration here. India's Space Research Organization is already sharing stunning photos from the mission. And look at these pictures of the approach.
And if y'all asking, yes, I forgot. I told y'all to set your watches or set your clocks or set your phone alarms or whatever you could set to the time, and I still missed it with everything I had going on with my family. I missed it. So I was running to the computer when I realized to catch the after effects and the aftermath of everything. But yes, I missed the live landing.
Rare close-up of the moon's kind of dusty gray terrain.
This mission comes as space programs around the world are racing to get to the moon. This weekend, you'll remember Russia failed to land a spacecraft
Lunar.
on the moon. NASA has announced multiple crewed lunar missions, including plans to have the first woman and person of color on the moon's surface. But India landed on the south pole of the moon, and experts believe there could be ice, mineral deposits, and valuable elements there. Our Vedika Sue joins us live in New Delhi with more. I can only imagine how excited people are, Vedika.
That's the thing. Imagine what they're going to get to see. We're going to get to see by way of India right now. Like you said, ice maybe.
Absolutely. The moment that soft landing happened, Bobby, you should have seen these people behind me. Now they're leaving this temporary pavilion that was set up. But they were clapping, they were cheering, there were chants, they were cheering the Prime Minister on after that while he was addressing the nation.
What if they allowed you to take a day off from work? Like that's a monumental day. Like, come on, if I call into work, you should be forgiving. You should be absolutely forgiving because of this special day. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of people that would take advantage of that too.
The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is at the BRICS summit in South Africa currently, but he tuned in virtually to watch that moment, and what a moment it was. You could see the emotional scenes inside the mission control center.
Yes!
And if you just go 4 years back approximately, those very hearts were broken, not only inside the mission control room, but across India. Millions of hearts broke when the Chandrayaan-2 failed to make that soft landing on the moon. But well, that's the past.
I need y'all to be more excited than that. I need to see people chest bumping, you know what I mean? Fist pumping, I need to see more excitement, man.
Now look at what's happened today. India's not only, like you pointed out, Victor, the 4th country in the world to make this soft landing on the moon. It's also the 1st country in the world to make this soft landing in the South Pole region. A big accomplishment for India. Just the first in many
huge,
in terms of its
major
missions. It wants to send a mission to space very soon, a manned mission. It also wants a place in the International Space Center there. So a lot happening at the International Space Station rather. Right now we still have the Indian Prime Minister speaking live. This is, like people have told us and scientists have said, a moment of intense national pride.
Now listen. I know this was a heck of an accomplishment. Again, congratulations. But now they're already talking about placing a human. I think they need a few more trial runs, a lot more trial runs, not just a few, a lot more trial runs before you then step over to say, okay, now we're going to include people aboard, maybe a spacecraft or something, and send it to the moon. You know what I'm saying? Especially after having another one, just not theirs, but another country's just crashed into the moon. So I would definitely, I know the excitement is high and everybody wants to progress forward in this race and everything like that, but still, let's continue to keep it slow before we start trying to introduce humans into going back to the moon.
Back to you.
Exciting moment. They're joining a very small fraternity. Vedika Sue with the reporting there. Thank you so much. Let's bring in now Mike Massimino. He's a former NASA astronaut and professor of mechanical engineering at Columbia University. He also has a new book coming out in December called Moonshot. a NASA astronaut's guide to achieving the impossible.
Why did I think he said moonshine? I was about to say, oh, that's so clever. Moonshine.
Mike, good to have you. Let's start here with the positioning. Yeah. How important it is for India not just to join this fraternity, but to go now to the South Pole.
Yeah, so the South Pole's big, Victor, because of ice. There's ice there, so the interest with ice is that it can be possibly made into drinking water to support crews that would go there, astronauts that would go there, and also could be turned into rocket fuel to use the moon as a place to launch to further locations out in the cosmos. So that is the great interest with the South Pole. And no one's been able to land there yet. This is the first time a country has pulled that one off. So this is big news. I'm looking forward to what they'll find out there.
And what are they
See, like DJ Khaled said, major key alert. I don't think people understand like the magnitude of what's happening right before our eyes, bro. These successful missions like this, man, what that could mean for in the future of us wanting to maybe one day make the moon habitable for people to stay in, or make it a pit stop place for us to go refuel, take a break, get some water, do some things, and then continue on, like he said, into the cosmos. This is huge.
trying to find out there?
Well, if they can find that ice and learn more about it, how it's composed, of what form it's in, where it is exactly, and maybe how they can process it into drinking water, and how they can maybe process it into fuel. Also, just the orbital mechanics, the physics of getting to the reason it's so difficult is because it's a difficult place to get to based on the math, the physics, the orbital mechanics. It's harder to get there than it is toward the center of the moon where we've landed previously. So hopefully they'll share all that information. I would expect they would. What the terrain is like, if there's any atmosphere there at all, any traces of any elements there. So all of these things will help us understand the South Pole, which is of great interest as a possible landing location, not only for more spacecraft like this, but also for people in the future.
Yeah. It's just been a few days since the Russians, their unmanned mission to the moon ended in failure. It crashed into the surface of the moon. And now India has landed this. Are we in another moon race? I mean, what do you see with this?
Yes.
I guess rush back.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope it's not a race. I think it's good to have a little competition, maybe, but hopefully we're going to be sharing information.
He being modest. He trying to save face. He don't want to get no phone calls after this thing is over. The interview is over. No, this is a race. We can clearly see and tell that this is a race, man. This is crazy. Like, I think Russia, them crashing, set them back. So you're gonna see them now really try hard to do something a little more than what India just did. They're gonna try to go above and beyond and try to outshine them of what their recent accomplishment was. You know what I mean? And now we're getting pressure. The US is getting pressure. So I think it is a space race.
Together. I think what we're seeing,
moon race or whatever you want to call it,
here is that it's possible now to get back to the moon. Not just 50 years ago, like the United States did, an incredible accomplishment. It was just a visit. Now we're looking to go back and settle there and explore there and go there for science and for prestige, for national prestige. India is going to, this is a great accomplishment for them. And also strategically, economically, to see what resources there. Can we use it as a place to move to other places in the cosmos to launch from there? So I think what we're seeing is that it's possible. Things are we can't get there. For the last 50 years, it's been, it's tough to get there and so on. But now that we see it's possible, more people are thinking about what they can do there. And so that's why I think we're seeing this heightened interest, particularly in that location on the moon. But I hope it's not really a race. I hope it's cooperation. It's not an easy thing to do. This is the first time a country's been able to pull it off. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll share that information, and hopefully we can go together. It's a huge undertaking, and I hope it's done as a team between different countries around the world.
Yeah, good for India. They should
great for India, yeah.
Great for India. Mike,
we'll see what happens too. We'll see what they do.
We will be watching it.
Hopefully everything keeps working.
Yes.
You got a rover that's looking around, so we'll see what happens
so far.
Mike Massimino, thanks so much. Look forward to the book.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for plugging me.
The Nabateans. Have you ever heard of the ancient ruin site of Petra? Located in what is now Jordan, the facades of the monumental buildings were carved directly into the shining rock.
How do you even maintain that? Like, it's gotta have been some updates. You know what I mean? That just looks too clean, too clean. Like it hasn't seen any wear and tear, any weather over time, and would kind of damage it and have it looking like the rock to the right of it. This just looks too clean. So I'm wondering, and don't get me wrong, it's still standing from that previous civilization. But what are they doing? I want to know, like, to maintain it and upkeep it, because it looks like they're doing that. It's just hard for me to believe that this here view of this hasn't been touched since that civilization.
Odds of the monumental buildings were carved directly into the shining rock. Once the important capital of the Nabateans, Petra later sank into the shadows of the past for several centuries. While the world-famous rock city with its colossal funerary temples attracts countless visitors from all over the world every year, we should not forget that there are many other sites from antiquity slumbering on our globe that are no less breathtaking. And although these stone witnesses to history are sometimes thousands of kilometers apart, their appearance gives the impression that one and the same master builder was at work here. But how is that even possible? Before the Nabateans...
I don't know, but whoever he was good. I would like to think it's more people than just one, but if it was just one, oh my gosh, he was brilliant. He was good. He was masterful at his craft.
Empire was conquered and swallowed up by the Romans. The Confederation of Arab tribes had dominated an imposing territory. In detail, the dominion extended from present-day Jordan to the northern Arabian Peninsula. According to our current knowledge, the Nabateans gained considerable power from the 4th century BC onwards, before the empire lost its independence in 106 AD and was incorporated into the Roman Empire. The traces of their achievements, first and foremost the remains of an ingenious irrigation system, testify to the fact that the Nabateans were absolute masters of efficiency. In order to be able to grow crops in the extreme drought, they relied on what is known as stormwater agriculture. The rainfall from the region was collected and then directed to the fields. In the process, the area of the rain collection points exceeded that of the actual farmland by a factor of 10 to 20. Another important pillar of the economy was trade with other peoples. For example, the Nabateans collected so-called bitumen, sticky hydrocarbon mixtures from the Dead Sea, to sell to the Egyptians. In turn, the pharaonic empires used the lumps to embalm their deceased. And although the site of Petra leaves us in awestruck wonder, most of the historical truth still slumbers in obscurity. It is estimated that only 20% of the site has been uncovered to date. What archaeological treasures and sensations are still hiding from us is therefore completely uncertain. The sunken city. It may sound contradictory at first, but while the civilian population suffers severely from a severe drought, the extreme dry spell is sometimes worth its weight in gold for researchers. As a reservoir on the Tigris River in northern Iraq,
kind of pretty much a gift and a curse at that. That's why I say the same thing about places like Antarctica and stuff like that, the cold places that have all this ice and glaciers and different things like that. When it starts and the whole global warming talks and everything like that and everything that's going on with global warming, when that thing is doing that, the melting process is exposing and showing, and all the exposures that it has isn't good exposures, but it's exposing some of the history. And that's what we're in search of. In order to know learn about it, we got to find it. And unfortunately, it's under a lot of that ice. You know what I mean? Along with some other things that could be bad for us, i.e. diseases and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I said in the beginning, a gift and a curse.
Receded further and further, archaeologists have recorded an absolute sensational find: the remains of a 3,400-year-old city.
Wow.
The problem for the experts: they had to hurry and thoroughly examine the site immediately before the water returned. But who created this settlement, and what do we know about its history? Well, in detail, we are dealing with a remnant from the Mittani Empire. This ancient kingdom existed from about 1500 to 1350 BC and ruled parts of northern Mesopotamia and Syria. It has been suggested that this is the ruins of Zakiku, which was once an important center in the Mittani Empire. In fact, experts have known about the location of the site for a long time. In 2018, they were already able to track down a lost palace here. which had walls 7 meters high and magnificent wall paintings. Then, during the last drought last year, a team of German and Kurdish archaeologists managed to map most of the city within a short period of time. In the same breath, several huge buildings were uncovered, including a massive fortification, an industrial complex, and a huge multi-story storage building. The latter is of particular importance because enormous quantities of goods were stored in it, which were probably brought in from all over the region. Regarding the state of preservation, the research team was pleasantly surprised, and this despite the fact that the structures are made of sun-dried mud bricks and had been underwater for over 40 years. The good condition is again due to the demise of the city. It was destroyed by an earthquake around the year 1350 BC, when the collapsing parts of the wall buried the rest of the buildings. Also of particular interest is the discovery of 5 ceramic vessels, which in turn contained over 100 cuneiform tablets. They were made shortly after the catastrophic earthquake, and some tablets were still in their original clay covers. The experts now hope to gain important information about the decline of the city and the dawn of the Assyrian rule on the basis of these sources. According to the researchers, the fact that the valuable contemporary testimonies have survived so many centuries underwater borders on a miracle. However, it is currently uncertain when the experts will continue their excavations. The site is now completely flooded again. Hegra. Another city that leaves us in awe with its makeup and history is Hegra, in northwestern Saudi Arabia. Just like Petra, this former trading metropolis was built by the Nabateans. And just like its more famous counterpart, Hegra is distinguished by its distinct tombs, but with one huge difference. Because in contrast to practically all rock tombs in Petra, more than 30 tomb facades in Hegra are adorned by chiseled inscriptions. Since the Nabateans left hardly any written evidence of their own for posterity, such discoveries are of immeasurable value to researchers. Thus, the texts from Hegra give us a detailed overview of the owners of the tombs and the role they once held in the community. In fact, in detail, the final resting places were ancient status symbols. They represented the wealth and prestige of the respective families. While the inscriptions of some tombs testify that they belonged to women, the texts also reveal...
Isn't that something? Where you're buried determine, you know what I mean, how high of a rank of a position you held. Like, can you imagine doing that today? How would you even do that? Other than, you know, presidents or whatever and stuff like that. I'm just talking about just regular people. How would we do that? How do you even classify somebody like that? You know what I mean? I just learned the other day that well, let me not say that. I have to tell y'all that somewhere else. I was about to tell y'all a dope little tidbit, but you'll see it floating around TikTok. Don't worry about it.
That the facilities could be inherited by descendants. In addition to this sober information, however, the inscriptions also contained supernatural curses that would befall anyone who plundered the tomb or tried to take it without permission. Inside the complexes, in turn, modern trackers came across countless precious funerary gifts, including bronze bracelets, beaded necklaces, and rings, in addition to everyday items like combs, coins, and decorated handkerchiefs. While many of these artifacts originated in Petra, others were gathered from Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean. Aliens in the Sahara. Graham Hancock is not exactly what we would call a classic historian. Thus, the Briton represents quite his own opinions about the course of the human history. He is convinced that all perished advanced civilizations stood in a direct connection, and that all these people were influenced by another superordinate civilization. The fact that we know nothing more today about this mysterious group, Hancock attributes to a kind of collective amnesia. It lies in the nature of the thing that the alternative researcher comes by regularly into the crosshairs of criticism. But if one follows the explanations of the Briton, then the unknown advanced civilization perished about 12,800 years ago in the context of a devastating global catastrophe. That all later cultures blossomed on the basis of a common preceding civilization, Hancock justifies with the striking similarities of many antique buildings. First and foremost, there are the pyramids. Although these impressive structures can be found in a wide variety of places around the world, they share the same geometric foundations and are also meticulously oriented around the same constellations. When Graham Hancock was once a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about one of the problems scientists have with the Sahara. It's virtually unexplored archaeologically. The Brit then pointed out something that many of us often forget. The Sahara was not always the dust-dry, scorching hot desert it is today. It is now considered certain.
I believe it went so long without it being, you know what I mean, without people going out there and trying to dig and discover and look for different things. It wasn't pillaged because people probably looked at it as just nothing more than a desert, not thinking that it was once thriving. It was once probably looking like the Amazon rainforest, had all this wildlife, all these trees, all this plant life, all these animals, all this other stuff. When you see it, for the most part, for our our civilization, our era, it was just more of a desert. So they probably just looked at it as, nothing there. Contrary to popular belief, there is. I guarantee you, so much more history up under there.
That the wasteland once resembled a green oasis, graced by rivers and lakes. The fertile savanna landscape also served as a welcome home for our ancestors. What's more, the presence of humans may have significantly accelerated the transition from a green to a dry Sahara. However, Hancock attributes a much greater significance to the Sahara. We should be aware that many missing pieces of the puzzle of human history still lie dormant in the hot desert sands. There, where the alternative views of Hancock meet the convictions of the pre-astronauts. At the end stands the realization that the lost advanced civilization, whose existence was erased from our memory, literally did not come from this world. According to this, the peoples of antiquity were in regular contact with extraterrestrial intelligences, and since they could not explain the futuristic, high-tech technologies of their unusual visitors, they were attributed a divine background. Those contemporary testimonies, which are commonly interpreted as the religious beliefs of ancient cultures, would therefore show us the real encounters of the different species. And in fact, the proof of the correctness of this daring thesis would still slumber today in the middle of the desert. You have already heard with certainty of the ominous eye of the Sahara. Even away from the alternative circles, researchers still do not know how the colossal structure in Mauritania was formed. The original interpretation as a meteorite crater should be thrown out over time. A recent study suggests that the structure was formed by the erosion of a so-called dome structure. In view of the strange ring-shaped structure, however, some people believe that we are dealing with the mystic ruins of Atlantis.
Yep.
And again, other persons recognize the eye in the Sahara as an ancient UFO landing place. And with that, many thanks for watching. Feel free to press the like and...
Listen, man, y'all spam the like button. God, I love this stuff.